get to those revenues.
Mm. And what is the fundamental problem that we're seeing with revenue and the opportunity to recapture that?
Well, I'm a little older than you, so I've seen a whole lot, okay? And we've been through every bad economy and forever. And so whenever there's a bad economy, we don't change very much. And I see a lot of people in my industry, in all industries, the first thing they do when the economy turns is they tend to lose focus at what generates business. So when it comes to recapturing less revenue, what generates revenue? Generating leads, booking appointments, and doing consultative sales presentations. Those are the three most important indicators for growth. And so when all the wheels fell off last March, we didn't change that. We knew we might need to deliver differently at times, but we were going to keep our focus. I call them non-negotiables, which are what are the things that generate business? It's leads, it's meetings, it's conversion.
That makes sense. And, there's some things where the communication format, the economy, the way in which we're communicating, our mindset, the amount of fear that we have, the amount of trust that we have, there are some things that are just not going to change. They'll be different, but they will not change. And one of these ideas that I really think about a lot is this idea of how do we get people to live within a trust-based realm? How do we get our prospects to trust us? How do we get the people that we're trying to get in front of to say, you know what, Ruben, Joe, those are the people that I want to talk to because I trust them?
Well, I think number one is not to try to play some silly game, not to try to sneak around the gatekeeper, not to all of a sudden try to build a false relationship. You build trust with actions, not with words. And so when this COVID thing happened, all the wheels started going off and all the talking heads started saying, this is not the time to sell. This is time to kind of schmooze with people. Well, honestly, this was the time to help your clients. And if what you do helps your clients, we should be forthright. We should earn their trust by being politely direct in the reason we're contacting them. I didn't lose any trust with my clients. I didn't lose any trust with new clients. And so our whole process is to be authentic, to be politely direct, and then we don't confuse people, because where confusion is high, decision-making is low.
Where confusion is high, decision-making is low. That makes sense. This really taps into our thesis at Dubb, because we are a video communication platform and we're all about making communication visual and increasing trust rates, increasing comprehension rates, because when they don't understand us, they're not going to buy from us. That probably goes without saying, but thank you for articulating that. I have a specific question for you that's centered around this idea of recapturing lost revenue, existing revenue that's already in our pipeline, if you will, versus going out and trying to acquire new business. We all have 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 contacts in some database, in some CRM system that we're working through. The question is, do we spend the time working through our existing database, our existing network, or do we go try to acquire a new one, or do we do both? And how do we figure out where to find that balance?
Okay, I think you do both for a lot of reasons. But I don't approach it differently. Whether I'm going back after an existing client or whether I'm going after a new client, it's all based on messaging, okay? It's all based on what do we say? How do we approach? You see, messaging is so important. And if all of our messaging is what I call value proposition based, which is what's in it for the client, not about us. And when we're looking to gain business, we tend to talk more about ourselves and our product instead of talking more about what we can do for that client. What are their challenges? What do they want to accomplish? And so whether I'm going after a present client, a former client, a new client, the only thing that changes is maybe a couple words, but the approach is the same.
And what would you say the hot buttons of our customers are?
A hot button is what their problem is, okay? The problem with business today is if you know your target market and you know what you do. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I help my clients generate quality leads, book more appointments, increase closing ratios. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. I know in one of my other verticals is I work with speakers, trainers, coaches, and consultants, but I don't teach them how to talk. I help them generate an income with their talent and through intellectual property. So when you know your demographic and you know the potential challenges your clients are having and you speak to those challenges, you're probably going to get a meeting.
Right. And what's amazing about that model is that by having that empathy and by having that connection through listening, we can also not just drive clients, but also referrals. So how does this model drive the referral engine? How do we get more referrals so that ultimately we don't need to go and look out for a new audience? We don't need to nurture the existing one. They're actually coming to us via inbound marketing.
I think there's a tipping point. Okay, there's certainly a tipping point, and I think that's all part of how strong your brand is. And when the thing begins to turn, where you're starting to get more in. For a long time, your business is going to be outbound. You can't live on referrals until your brand takes over. And in my situation, I will never live strictly on inbound because I can't teach what I don't do. So when it comes to referrals, I think referrals come after you've earned trust, you are the trusted advisor of that client, and you have delivered more than you promised. Then I believe that's when they open up their database.
Delivered more than you promised. Okay, so how do we set ourselves up to deliver more than what we promise?
I believe this is going to be a Joeism. I believe it's easier to make money today than ever in the history of our country because I think there's a lot of average out there and there's a lot of people that go home at 5 o'clock, and I'm not putting that down, but I'm saying whatever happened to outworking the competition? How do you gain an unfair advantage over your competition is through better communication skills. It's an absolutely, can your client measure and metric what you delivered? The day they can measure and metric what you deliver, you're going to cut out about 90% of your competitors. That is the beginning of earning trust. That's also the beginning of delivering more than you promise.
Got it. And I think what I really like about this model is that through communication, through process, through customer service, through that type of communication, you can set yourself up. Now, I think the challenge sometimes is saying no. It's setting expectations, understanding the nature of the relationship, what it is supposed to be and what it is not supposed to be, so that you give yourself room to over deliver. And I think that's sometimes the hardest part, especially for people that have a hard time saying no.
Well, I think, first of all, it's very important to know your business. It's very important to know your uniqueness. I know my uniqueness. I'm not better than other people. I don't do everything better than other people, but there's a couple things I think we are best in the business at. And so that's what I will sell. I will sell my uniqueness, but I will also do this. We will record everything and people will look at the metric. One of the things I do when I go into corporations or when people come to our sales boot camp, we're making live outbound calls in real time to real people to book real appointments. It's not a role play. Well, I don't go near the board and they get one of their senior advisors or we get somebody in the room that's come into our boot camp that's honest and they track all the numbers. Those are real numbers. I think anytime you can, before I close a contract with someone, I want to know what their expectations are, what results they want to get. And unless I know I can deliver those results, we're not going to contract. The day I know I can deliver those results and I hit those results, they're not looking at a competitor.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me. Now, when you are trying to build a relationship at hyperspeed, trying to get someone to trust you within the first 10 seconds, 3 seconds of a conversation. In this environment, what are some of the best practices that we might remind ourselves when we are picking up the phone and calling
I think
someone?
number one, we have to be honest. You're not going to build a relationship in one sentence. I think all those people out there talking about building these warm, fuzzy relationships in the first 30 seconds, they don't understand. I think you have to develop trust. I think if you can open up with trust, you'll begin the relationship. Whether I'm talking to a gatekeeper, whether I'm leaving a message, whether I'm talking to the person I want to talk to, the beginning is based on my messaging that's clear and defined. And I'm not going to call up and build some fake relationship. There's another thing that happens. And there's a lot of tremendous speakers and trainers out there and tremendous books. But everybody's talking about start all the meetings with a story. Well, about 50% of the population, when you talk to them, they're task-oriented. And if you start with a story, they're done with you. They don't want a relationship with you. They want results from you. So I think part of this whole thing, whether it's on the phone, face-to-face, through Zoom, through your video, is we have to become master communicators. We are master trainers of human behavior model DISC. There's Myers-Briggs animal DISC. And what we've learned to do was speak in multiple languages. So we speak not for manipulation, but so the other person can process what we're saying.
Now, talk to me a little bit about the DISC model. I've gone through the process. I've done the assessments. It's very intriguing. Tell me how we can learn about ourselves. What do you like about this model, and what are your concerns about it?
What I like about the model is it's pliable. Many of the human behavior models are, this is what you are. But my wife and I have been doing this a long time. And I will tell you that no one is one behavior style. So when you're looking at the fast-paced, task-oriented, which is only 10% of the population, they're very direct, they're focused. And then you have your interact, your fast-paced people. And then you have your slow-paced people, your blue. And then you have your slow-paced task. Well, it would be great if people came with one. But stress, COVID literally changed some behavior styles. And so many people hire people based on their DISC profile. And when they show up on Monday, they have someone else. So we took the DISC model and we went more into adaptive behaviors, whereby if I know the behavior I am right now, and I know what you are, Ruben, then I can adapt my talking, the way I look at you, to your needs, not mine. And this is not manipulation. But again, most people, when they get into a human behavior model, they only go about an inch deep. It's a parlor game. It's a game to them. And they actually can cause more danger. So my recommendation to your audience is become a master at communications.
That's really what it's about. Now, when someone hires for a sales role, what would you say that one of these is the majority of the potential hire, the desired hire?
I will say this. Most people want to hire fast-paced people.
So
they talk a lot. They're gregarious. They're driven. However, I've been doing this a long time. And the best results of any behavior style we get for booking appointments is the one you would least expect, which is your slow-paced, people-oriented.
And explain that paradox, please.
Well, slow-paced, people-oriented appear to be shy, but they'll stick with a script. And I know a lot of your audience will say, well, I don't like a script. Well, the best actors in the world are Italians: Stallone, Pacino, Brando, and they're all scripted. The most scripting is so you master messaging and it doesn't sound scripted. But I would never hire somebody in my company, no matter how good they were, and allow them to approach clients the way they want to. I mean, think about what companies do. They spend money on branding and advertising and marketing and product development and video and everything. And then they let this person show up one day and go, I got all this experience, and they turn them loose. Your first point of contact with your potential client is your sales team. And if they don't say what you want them to say, the way you want them to say it, they can destroy your brand.
Well, I think what's really interesting is that traditionally speaking, when you look at some of these personality types, you see words like this is a powerful word, dominance, forceful. Let's just think about that for a second. Forceful. Do you want to hire a salesperson that has a forceful attitude? Now, I don't want to misconstrue this because I mean, it has context, but aren't we moving towards a place? And I have to say this, that I agree with you that not one person is one personality type. We're very dynamic based on our environment and a number of factors. But my question for you is, if we're moving towards a more listening-based, empathetic, compassionate approach to sales, what are, not the personality profile, but what are the traits that we might want to look for in a person so that we know that that person has the ability to connect?
If I'm hiring a salesperson, here's what I'm hiring.
Okay.
Ambitious, self-disciplined, willing to learn. I can teach anyone how to tone it down. I can teach anyone how to rev it up. I can teach anyone how to read a behavior. I can teach anybody how to pick up a phone, how to do a consultative presentation. I cannot teach them how to be hungry, how to be humble in a way they want to learn, and how to be persistent. And so what happens is, to me, you hire character traits, you train skills. And these communication style things can be taught and learned. And, there's two things about the behavior styles. There's under control and out of control. So before I knew any of this behavioral stuff, I was out of control. I really thought, I came out of being a football coach before I got in business. So I thought the face mask was on somebody's helmet so I could grab it. Well, that doesn't work in business. So Joe had to get under control. And under control is when you tame that behavior style need and you learn how to be more adaptive to the needs of others.
And how do we teach that? How do we teach compassion? How do we teach empathy?
Well, let's not talk about empathy so much as the skills. In the beginning, it's a technique. Eventually, it becomes an emotion. You can't teach. You couldn't teach me in the beginning how to be empathetic, but you could teach me how to tone it down. You could teach me the skills of being a better listener. And then over the course of time, I had to make a decision. Do I want to be sincere or do I want to be a manipulator? When I learned these things, my closing ratios increased by 50%. Okay. And again, if people will dive into professional growth, it's unbelievable, because what we're finding, no matter if I go into a corporation or people come to our training or I'm doing a coaching, we're finding baseline knowledge is not what it used to be. It's down here because people aren't reading as much. People are being more entertained. So when you find a person that's willing to learn and grow, they'll literally shoot past other people.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it amazing sometimes where it's better to hire someone that doesn't have bad experience, but rather are willing to learn? It's one of those paradoxes. Another question for you is, this idea of not giving up, persistence. As a football coach, there's this great movie scene that I recall. I don't remember the name of the movie, but the coach asks the player to put a blindfold on, and he asks him to take the weight device that he pushes on the field. I don't remember what it's called, but he asks him to the plow. Help me out here. So he asks him to push the plow across the field, and he says, "Hey, do 50 feet." And with the blindfold,
they call it a sled.
A sled. Thank you. Boom. So in this scene, it's a very poignant movie scene. And the lesson here is that when we don't know what's in front of us, i.e., if we're blindfolded, our ability to persevere is dramatically higher because we don't see the limitations. They're not even within our sight. So how do we train someone to be more perseverant? And the reason why I ask this is because I've seen this so many times, including in myself, where I might not have had that perseverance. I might not have had that ambitiousness and that persistence until I was catalyzed. There was an external force that came into my life, a need, But if we don't have that need, 3 kids and a mortgage, if we don't have that, how do we, I have 2 kids. How do we activate that?
First of all, I'm going to give you another Joeism.
Please.
I find less people, when they have to do something, are willing to do it. Very few people can fight out with their back against the wall, 3 kids and a mortgage. Got it? I think what happens is this. Here's what I think the key is. And I do everything backwards. Most people, when they go in to do training, coaching with sales, they start from the top down. They start with the mindset. They start with the strategy. And there's all good stuff. Don't get me wrong. I start with the foot soldier. I start with the people that are actually doing the selling, and I teach them learnable skills, and all of a sudden they become successful. Now stay with me here. Once I know I can do something, the dream or the possibilities or the potential becomes real. Very few people can say, I want that. I'll do whatever it takes to get that. So when I start with people, I have a 3-day sales boot camp. I'll get 20 people from all over the country, right? They'll come in all different skill sets, all different industries. And the majority of them have never made an outbound call to anybody they didn't know or want to call. And we'll train Monday, hard communication style. We'll get into scripting, what to say to the gatekeeper. We'll get into where they're learning. We'll do lead generation. Day 3, we pick up the phone. And it's like starting a car in Michigan in the winter. But all of a sudden, they read the script. And all of a sudden, it starts to happen. And they become worthy of the accomplished goal. And their subconscious now says, this is what it takes to win at this. Because you're willing to do it, you can accomplish your goal. And we have never done less than 70% conversion to appointment. We get through 92% of the gatekeepers. And that same day, we'll get 45 to 60 return phone calls. It's every time we do it. But it's because they've mastered the skill, therefore their belief window opens, and now you'll see a persistence and an ambition grow.
So good. So where can we learn more about you? Website, social channels?
Well, let me first give your audience a gift.
Please.
Free gift. If they will take out their phone and they're going to text the word Sales Edge, one word, Sales Edge, to 55678. That'll take you to Pici and Pici link. That'll take you to a splash page. There's a 5 free e-course video set on recapture lost revenue through virtual selling. There's also information on our second business, sellmorevirtually.com. That's a membership platform. But there's also links to our podcast, Sales Edge. You can find me at piciandpici.com, PICIANDPICI.com. But if you ever just want to have a complimentary cup of Joe, pick up the phone, 407-947-2590. I don't bite, okay? And send me an invite to LinkedIn. I'm the same guy, okay? I'm pointing at you, Joe Pici. I'll accept you. You'll get to look at my LinkedIn profile. Guys, since January 1st till yesterday, I got out 79 proposals, closed 34 of them. 27 came from leads from LinkedIn.
And that's it right there. That is the future right there. So amazing experience here, learning from you, Joe. Thank you so much for your time. Recommend that everyone check out your LinkedIn account and also your website.
And don't forget, Sales Edge is our podcast, and send that Sales Edge word to 55678. You'll get all kind of free stuff.
Sales Edge 55. Say it again.
It's one word, Sales Edge. Some phones will break it up. So Sales Edge, SALESEDGE, and then you're going to text it to 55678. It'll take to Pici and Pici link. It'll take you to a splash page, and there's all kind of free collateral for you.
Boom, there it is. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and stick around for some notes. Thank you so much.